And we move on to the next presentation that will be delivered by Professor Shaun Treweek from the University of Aberdeen. His talk is titled Amplifying Patient Voices, Inclusion and Impact in Clinical Trial Design. Professor Treweek is internationally recognized for his work on inclusive recruitment and pragmatic trial methodology. He will explain why inclusive thinking is essential if clinical results are to be truly meaningful and applicable to real-world patient populations. Professor Treweek, please go ahead.
Thank you. So, as said, I'm going to talk about impact, and I'm going to talk about inclusion particularly, and I'm going to give you the conclusion immediately. We need to think very carefully about who should be in our research, who could benefit, and to do that, we need to talk to patients, their families and carers right at the start, and then keep talking to those people throughout our work. Trial design, like all research design, is about making choices. There are lots of choices to make, and some of those choices could be great, and some of those choices can be bad. And a common area where we make bad choices is with regard to who should be in our study. And if we make a mistake there, that mistake will stay with us. It will bake in a problem, and part of that problem is highly likely to be inequality and inequity. And we bake that in from the start. Whoa, I am upside down. Just keep my hand the right way up. A key thing to think about is who could benefit from the treatment we are considering. And an important thing to remember is this is not only about biology. It's about behavior. It's about culture. It's about trust. And even for a drug, even if we think that biologically this particular treatment could be expected to have a similar effect in any human being with the condition of interest, that assumes that that person will be offered the treatment, is able to accept that offer, and that is trusting in that treatment. It's not only about biology. That's why it's so important to talk to patients and families and carers throughout the design process to make it possible for these other considerations. I really do not understand how I keep messing this up so frequently. There we are. Not thinking about these considerations is very common in other types of trial. This is a nice example with regard to cognitive impairment and a particular type of trial. So this is a hip fracture, somebody breaks their hip, and then there's rehabilitation after that. And there's a whole bunch of trials that this particular systematic review identified. And what they found was that 80% of those trials in this area, hip fracture rehabilitation, explicitly excluded people with impaired cognition. And that is despite the fact that 1/3, a whole third of all the individuals who have hip fracture have impaired capacity. In other words, 1/3 of that total clinical population was pushed to one side and ignored in over 80% of these trials. And that strikes me as very strange indeed, that that evidence base has little to say for those individuals. Can they engage with, accept, gain those potential benefits? We do not know in 80% of those trials. This is relevant for advanced therapies too. And it was fabulous to hear from Anna with Genetic Alliance, because they have done a great study looking at exactly these issues. And this is what they found. We have problems with advanced therapy trials too. Things like equity of access, giving people that offer. Things like disability. What about pregnancy or likelihood? I'm interested in becoming pregnant. What about those individuals? What are they being offered? Things like geographical location, where the centers are offering these treatments compared to where people live, who could benefit potentially from these treatments. It's an issue in all trials, and that includes advanced therapies. Who are the people who could benefit, and what do we need to do? This is really sad. Right. Years ago, I did some work around uptake of vaccines in COVID. And this quote has stuck with me forever. It's exactly what we need to do with the issues that I'm talking about now. It is not about asking patients, carers, the public to do something different and reprogram themselves. It's us. We researchers, regulators, ethics bodies, we need to think about what we can do to make our research, our activity more equitable for those people who have something to gain. There are three things I think we should do. Firstly, the one I've banged on about already, who are the people who could benefit from this treatment? Think very explicitly about who those individuals are. And then make sure your design, the way you are putting together your trial, the processes you are using, the people who are delivering that care, where it is being delivered, how it is being delivered, that those things are all chosen, selected, put together, thinking about who are the people who could benefit. In other words, the design is explicitly tailored to enable those individuals to be part of the trial, to be able to gain those potential benefits. And then report what happened. Did you succeed in bringing some of these groups that we're talking about who are often underserved but could benefit into your trial? And as I said, all of these have a role for patient and public contributors. So to end then, not thinking about inclusion risks reaching a conclusion that, great, we have something that will help everyone, when actually we only know that it will help some. We do not know with certainty about whether it could help others. And if we are thinking about inclusion seriously, it means thinking different. If we do what we did last time, almost certainly we will be running into inclusion problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Treweek, for this refreshing perspective on this topic. And